every team in sports loves the idea of nobody believes in it. Shock the world. Everybody likes to sort of play that card when they can, and sometimes certain teams sort of do that on somewhat specious grounds. In Georgia's case, based on the fact that, overwhelmingly Alabama was selected to win the SEC. Georgia's likely going to be no better than third in the official preseason polls when they come out. As the reigning national champion, does Georgia have justifiable grounds on which to say, nobody believes in us, we're going to go out there and prove our doubters wrong? Does Georgia have some real credentials to make that claim going into the start of the upcoming season?
I believe that, yes, they do. Now, obviously, they're going to be more talented than every team they step on the field with during a regular season. But, maybe it's because Alabama is so often the returning champ. Or even, I feel like, LSU was here because of the 2020ness of it all. But you look at some of the other returning champions in recent years, it felt like they got a really benefit of the doubt that Georgia just does not seem to be getting right now. And that might just be as simple as Alabama has, I think, the two best players in college football in Bryce Young and Will Anderson, and maybe not even necessarily in that order there. But I do have some questions about this Alabama team. Jermaine Burton getting first-team All-SEC wide receiver is kind of a bit of a farce. And really only, I think, if he were on Georgia still, he would not be first-team All-SEC wide receiver. And they have some questions at those skill position players where, to me anyway, it's very clear that they imported these guys, the wide receiver from Louisville as well as Amir Gibbs at running back, to say, hey, we have some concerns about these skill position players, which Alabama has recruited as well as anybody in the country when it comes to that. I'm old enough to remember when they talked about that 2021 Alabama wide receiver class as one of the great wide receiver recruiting hauls of all time. And when you have to go out and bring in those guys to address some of the concerns you have there, which came up very, very clearly in the national championship game, those guys were not being developed over the course of the season, and it came back to bite them at the worst possible time. I do think this defense is going to be quite good, but I'll say this. Last year, Georgia had a matchup that it wanted at the end of the game. Brock Bowers on Henry Toa, and Brock Bowers just absolutely won that and then ended up scoring a touchdown in Georgia's final offensive play of the game there. So I have questions about other than obviously Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. Those guys are no doubt about it studs. The high-level difference makers. Georgia went at Kool-Aid McKinstry in the national title game last year. Elias Ricks, I think, is living a little bit off reputation of his freshman year and didn't exactly have a great year at LSU last season. So I think this Alabama team, it certainly deserves to be considered a favorite, but at the same point in time, this is Georgia offense that I think by most metrics was a top 10 offense a season ago. And you trust in the recruiting talent in this defense, and it just sort of feels like, we'll brush Georgia aside. They'll lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game, and, if they get into the playoff, they get into the playoff. But because Alabama returns Bryce Young and Ohio State returns C.J. Stroud, it seems to me that just everyone is sort of pushing Georgia off the side based on the fact of those two players being back for those two teams.
No, I think that's really well said, Connor. Good stuff. We'll look forward to reading a whole lot more from you at DawgNation.com in the days to come, and we'll chat with you here on our program again very soon as well.
Yep, as always, was a pleasure.